Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to another video. So in this video, we will do the code refactoring of the popular video on our channel, which is Learn React JS with project in 2 hours. So we will migrate to React Router DOM version 6. And along with that, we will also convert some class components into function components. And we will introduce the context API to solve the prop drilling problem and make our code more readable. So if this sounds interesting, then stick around. Also don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. So let's get started. Alright guys, so right now we don't have any repository to work on. So what we are going to do is we'll go to the GitHub and we will clone the repository that we want to work on, and we will do the refactoring on that. So let's go to the browser, and here you will see that this is the project, which is the React tutorial contact manager app is the project that we want to do the refactoring. So what we will do is I will click on it and you can just clone the repository. So if I go here and you need to click on this code and you can copy this, then you can use the command git clone and then you can add the path of this repository. So what I will do here is that I will go to my Visual Studio Code, and inside the Visual Studio Code, you will see that I have a clone git repository. So I'm going to click on it and I will clone it from the GitHub. So I will click on it and it's going to list all the repositories that is available in my GitHub account. So this is the one which I want to clone. So I'm going to click on it and I will just clone it on the desktop itself. So I'm going to select the desktop as a folder and I will select the repository location. So now this is going to clone the repository and you will see that it's cloning. All right. So the repository is cloned, and now what we can do is I can just click on the open. So it is going to open the repository which we have just cloned. All right. So now my repository is open, and now what we need to do is we want to work on the latest code which is available on the repository. So if I go back to our browser, and here you will see that the latest code is available in the branch search bar. So what I will do is I will just check out this search branch. So if I click on this master, then it's going to list all the branches. So search bar is a branch where I have the latest code. So I'm going to click on it and it's going to check out the branch, right? So now what we are going to do is we are going to go to the package JSON, and inside the package JSON, you will notice that we have the dependencies and we need to make use of a React Router DOM version 6. So what I will do here is I will just change this, and I'm going to change this to 6.1.1. So it's going to install the React Router DOM version 6. And now we want to install the dependencies. So for that, what we will do is we are going to run the npm install so that it will install all the dependencies based on the package JSON. So I will go to the terminal, and inside the terminal, I'm just simply going to add the npm install, and this is going to install all the dependencies based on the package JSON. So we need to wait for the dependencies to get installed. So let's wait for a bit. So since the dependencies is getting installed, so meanwhile what we can do is we can also clone the JSON server, which will help us to give the APIs. So I have already cloned the JSON server and it's also available in the GitHub. So if I go to the GitHub and if we go to the repositories, so let's me click on this repositories, and here if you search, then you can search for the JSON and it's going to give you the JSON static context API. So this is the API we are using. So I have already cloned it, and let me show you JSON server. So this is the JSON server which I have already cloned, and what I've been doing is I'm already running this on the localhost 3006. All right, now our dependencies are installed, and now let's give a try with the npm start. So I'm going to have the npm start, and it's going to start the application on a local development environment. Okay, so now you will see that as soon as we do the npm start, we are running into an error, and the error is that attempted import error, and that is the switch is not exported from React Router DOM. And that is because when we use the React Router DOM version 6, there is no switch in it. And instead of switch, we have the routes. So let's go and let's start fixing the application. So I will go to the source, and inside the source, we will just go to the app.js. And here in the app.js, you will notice that we have the switch. So the first thing we will do is we are going to change this switch to routes. So let me have the routes, and then we will go here and we will change the switch to routes. So let's go here and I'm going to change this switch to routes. So let me add the routes, and if I go down, then here also I'm going to change the routes. So now we have fixed the first problem. Now I will open the terminal, and now we don't see any error. So let's go to the browser. So I will go to the browser, and here you will see that if I go here and if I refresh it, then we don't see anything. That means we have a lot of problems in this application. So now let's start with first switching with the React Router DOM version 6. So what I will do here is that I will go to my Visual Studio Code, and inside the Visual Studio Code, first let's go here, and here what we will do is we are going to make use of the React Router DOM version 6. So we are going to have the router as it is, we are going to have the header, we will have the routes, and in the route what we are going to do here is that we are going to have the path, we will have the exact, but instead of render here we are going to make use of an element prop. So what I will do here is I'm going to go here, I'm going to make here an element. So let me add the element, and what element we need to add here? So the element we need to add here is the contact list, because this is the component that's going to be rendered in this route. So I'm going to copy this, and let's add the contact list here. All right. And for now, what I will do here is I will just do a comment of this because we don't want. And then let's go to the next one. Here also we are going to make the same changes. So I'm going to have the element, and inside the element I'm going to have the add contact, and I'm not going to pass any props. So let me have, and let's comment this as well. Let's go to the edit contact. Here we are going to have the same thing. We are going to have the element, and this element will be equals to the edit contact. All right, we have added the edit contact. I will just comment out this. And the last one is the route with the path of the ID, and here we are going to make is the component will get changed to the element. So let me have the element, and here we need to add the component with the brackets. So I'm going to have the component, and I'm going to close this. All right, so now we have made the changes, and now let's give a try and let's see on the browser, do we see anything or not? So I'm going to go to the browser. So let's go to the browser, and here we see that we have the errors because now we have changed a lot of stuff here. So let's go and let's fix all those things. So what I will do is I will just adjust my screens. All right, so now I have adjusted the screens, and if we go to our browser, then we see that the problem we are facing is that cannot read properties of undefined, and that is being in the contact list.js. So let's go to our contact list.js. So I'm going to go to our contact list.js, and here we can see that it needs a contacts as a prop, but there is no prop we are passing in the routes. So for that, what we are going to do is we are going to introduce the context API. So what we will do here is that I'm going to go here, and I'm going to create a new folder, and the name of the folder I'm going to give it as context. And here we are going to use the context API, and I'm going to follow the pattern of the context API, which if you are not familiar with it, then I have a video tutorial on it. You can click on the card above and jump to it directly. I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to name the file as contacts CRUD context.js. I have the file, and here what we are going to do here is first we are going to import the uh, create context. So let me have the create context, and then this create context will be coming from React. So I'm going to add the React here. All right, and then we are going to create a constant with a contacts CRUD context, and this will be equals to the create context. So let's create the context first. So now we have created the context, and now what we will do is we are going to export a context provider function. So let me have the function, and I'm going to name it as the context CRUD context provider. All right, and this function is going to take the children, and the children's will be the components that we are going to pass. So I'm going to have here the children. So let me add the children. And in the end, what it's going to return is it's going to return. So let me have a return here, and it's going to return the contacts CRUD context dot provider. So let's have the provider, and inside the provider, it's going to take the children's. So whatever the children's we have here, so it's going to take the same children's. So I'm going to have the children. And when we have this context CRUD dot provider, we need to have a value. So let's have a value to this provider. So I'm going to have the value, and here I'm going to create a object, a simple JavaScript object that will define the value. So I'm going to have the value here. So I'm going to have the constant, and that will have the value, and this value will be a simple JavaScript object. All right, so we have done the basic setup, and what we need to do is, and in order to access the values from this context provider, we need to have the context consumer. And for the context consumer, what we are going to do is we are making use of a use context hook. So let's go here, and I'm going to have a function. So I will go here, I'm going to export a function, and I'm going to create a custom hook which will be the use context CRUD. All right, and this is going to return us the use context, and inside the use context we are going to pass the name of our context. So this is the name, and I'm going to pass this name here. All right, but for this we need to import the use context. So let's go and import it. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to import the use context. But if we go here, then you will see that the on line number 11, which is this one, and it's missing the contacts. So that means it doesn't have all the contacts list so that it can map and it can loop through it and display it on the screen. So if I go back here, and here what we will do here is that first thing we need to do is we need to provide the contacts list so that the contacts list component can display them. So what we will do, I'm going to create a constant here, and the name of the constant will be contacts, and I'm going to have the set contacts, and this will be equals to the use state. All right, and initially this will be an empty array. All right, and now I want to expose this so that it can be used in all the components. So what I'm going to do here is that, so I'm going to simply add the contacts here, and right now there's no data in this contact. So what we will do is we need to fetch the data from our JSON server. So if we go in the app.js, and inside the app.js, if we see here, then we have a retrieve contacts function. So we have to make use of this retrieve contact function and retrieve all the contacts. So what I will do here is, right now we have a messy app.js. So we have to refactor this code, and we have to take out all these functions for the CRUD operation into our contacts API so that it can be used in any component directly. So I will go here, I will cut this. All right, and then I will go here and I'm going to add the function here. So let me add the function. But when I add the function, there is an API.get. That means we are using the Axios. So if we go back here, and we will see that we have the Axios here. So I'm going to cut or copy this, and let's add it in our context. All right, we have that. And what we will do here is we just need to see that are we able to fetch the contacts or not. So what I will do here is we will keep it as it is, and here instead of this, what I will do that if I have the response dot data, then in that case what I want to do, I have to set the contacts. All right, and this set contacts will be based on the response dot data, and I'm simply going to remove this. So we haven't done anything fancy here. We are just trying to make our code more neat and clear. So whenever any of the component calls the retrieve context, it's going to make a call to the API, which is our JSON server, and then it's going to fetch all the data, and then we are setting this data into the set context. Since we have set it the data, now we can expose this function so that it can be used. So I will go here, and if we want to expose anything, we are going to add it in the value. All right, so we have done this. Now we have to make use of this retrieve context into our contact list so that we can make use of it. So let's go to the contact list. So I'm going to go here in the contact list, and inside the contact list, if I want to make use, what I have to do is I have to make use of a use effect. So I'm going to go here and I will make use of the use effect. All right, inside the use effect, what I will do here is I'm going to come here and I'm going to write the use effect, and this use effect will have an arrow function. All right, and then we need to add a dependency. So for now I'm going to add the empty array. Now I want to use the retrieve contacts function so that I can retrieve my contacts. So what we need to do is, so we have this contacts API here and we need to make use of it. So first we need to add the providers. So what we'll do is let's go to our app.js, and inside the app.js, let's import first. So what I will do here is I will go here and I'm going to have the import contacts CRUD provider, and this will be coming from the /context/context CRUD context. So I know that this being a bit of confusing. There is a contacts and there is a context. So it both sounds very similar, but I hope you will be able to understand it. All right, so we have this, and now we just need to provide it to our component. So this is our router, and this is our header, then we have the routes, and on top of this we are going to provide this, and then it's going to end it. So let's cut this and let's end it below the routes. So I will go here, and these are our routes, and just below the routes. All right, so we have provided it, and now let's make it a bit of more clean and neat. So what I'm going to do here is let's remove all this. We don't want it. So I'm going to remove this. I'm going to remove this. Let's remove this as well. And okay, so we are done. Now I can save it, and let's also remove the API context. We don't want it. And now what we can do here is that now we have already provided, so we can make use of it in the components. So in this component, if we go here, then what we will have is I'm going to have a constant, and inside this constant, what I will have my contacts, and apart from context, I will also have the retrieve contacts. So this will be retrieve context, and these two will be coming from the use contacts CRUD. All right, so now we have this, and now we can make use of this. So I will just copy this, and I'm going to add it here. All right, and now if we go and if we try to console log this constant, then we should be able to see the data. So if I go here, and what I will do here is right now we are not getting this contacts from the prop, so it will directly be used as contacts. All right, and then once it is used as a context, then it's going to function as it is. All right, I will save it, and now let's give a try. And if I refresh it, then we see that we get some error, API is not defined, and retrieve context is not defined. And also there is a problem in the context that we haven't defined the use state. So let's go and fix them. So the first thing we will do here is we are going to give the API back, all right, so that it can work properly. And here we are using the use state, but we haven't imported. So let's use the use state. And we also see that we have a retrieve context on line number 70 in the app.js. So let's fix that as well. So if we go to the line number 70, and here we see that we have the retrieve context and the use effect. But now we don't need all this stuff because we are already making use of a context API, and we already have this calling of the retrieve context in our context list directly. So let's go and remove this. So I'm going to go here. I will remove everything. All right, I will save it. And now if you see, then we have a problem. We did a spelling mistake. So let's correct that. So I will go here. I'm going to copy this. Then I'm going to copy it here, and I'm going to copy it here. So we have fixed this. And now if we see, then we get the contact list back. So we have all the contacts back, and we have did a refactoring of the code. We have added the React Router DOM version 6 and the routes. And the other thing is we are now fetching all the data using the context API. So now what we need to do is now we don't have to do all those prop drilling, passing the props from one component to another. We can directly access the values inside any component with the help of the context API. So we did it for the retrieval APIs. Now let's do the same thing for the add, update, delete. So what we are going to do here is that first let's do the delete one. So I will go here, and here if we go, then we see that we have a remove contact handler. So what we are going to do is I'm going to cut this, and I will save it. I will go to my context API, and inside the context API, I will do the add here. All right, and then I will just add a comment here so that we know that this is the delete contact, and I'm going to change this to delete contacts. All right, so now we have this delete contacts. We have to expose this. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add it here so that we can get the remove contact handler. Now we will go to the contact list again, and here you will see that we have the delete contact handler, and we are getting the ID and all those stuff. We don't need this now, so I'm going to remove this. All right, so we are going to clean it, and we also don't need to pass any prop as a click handler, so I'm going to remove this as well. And we are only going to pass the contact and the key. And now let's go to this contact card so that we can make use of the delete functionality. So I'm going to go to the context card, and inside this context card, you will see that this is the trash icon. So that means this is the delete one. And for the delete, what we need to do here is first we need to use the remove contact handler. So I'm going to go here, and I'm going to have a constant, and here I'm going to have the remove contact handler. Okay, and this will be coming from the use contacts CRUD, and now we can make use of this. So I'm going to copy this, and what I will do here is that I'm going to create a function first. So let's have a constant. I'm going to have a delete contact, and this delete contact is going to take the ID. Then I'm going to have a function, and here I'm going to add the remove contact handler, and I'm going to pass the ID. So this is the ID I want to pass, which I want to delete a contact. So I'm going to make use of this delete contact. So let's go down, and here if we go here, this is the trash icon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove all this, and I'm going to simply add the delete contact. So that's how we have done the delete contact code refactoring. So let's go and let's test it. So if I go here, if I refresh my page, and if I want to delete, then let's click on this delete icon and we see that we are now able to delete it. All right, so we have done the retrieval contact, we have done the delete contact. Now let's work on the add contact. So now if I click on this add contact, then we are able to go to the add, but now this functionality will not work. If I click on this add, then we see that we have the alert. And if I try to add something, let's add this, and I'm going to add the test@gmail.com, and I'm going to click on the add, and as soon as I click on the add, you will see that we are running into the errors. So now let's fix that. So first thing what we will do is we are going to go to our app.js. All right, and inside the app.js, first we are going to take out this add contact handler. So I'm going to cut this because we don't want this here, and I'm going to add it in my context API. So here we have the retrieval, here we have the delete, and now let's add the add contact handler. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here. All right, and this is going to give us the add contact handler. So I'm going to have the add contacts. All right, so now we have added the add contact handler here, and now let's go to the add contact and make the changes. So this we are going to keep it as it is. What we are going to have is whenever we want to add a new contact, we are going to have a contact object, and inside the contact object we are going to make a request by adding a UUID. That will be a unique ID for a particular contact. Then we are going to make a post call to the contacts passing the request body, and then in the response whatever we get it, we are going to append it to the existing contacts. So these are the existing contacts, and then we are just appending a new response or a newly added contact. So let's go to our add contact. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close all this which we don't want. I will save it, and we need to expose this. So what I will do here is I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here. All right, and then I will go to my add contacts. So if we go to the add contacts, then we see that this add contact is a class component, and I want to make this class component to a function component so that I can make use of my use context hook and I can fetch the values from the context API. So let's do it quickly. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove this and I'm going to have a constant here. So let's add a constant. All right, now I'm going to remove this and we need to convert this to an arrow function. So let's have an arrow function. And the other thing we need to do is we are using the state. So we have to make use of the use state for the local component state. So I'm going to have a constant and I'm going to have the email, set email, and this will be equals to the use state, and I'm going to have a very similar one for the name also. So I'm going to copy this, I'm going to add it, and I'm going to have the name here. So let me have the name, and then this will become the set name. All right, then we have to remove this render. So let me remove this render function. So I'm going to remove this render function. All right, and the next thing we need to do here is that here we are going to have the email directly. So let me have the email, and here instead of this set state, I'm going to have the set email, and I'm going to remove this as well. So this will become that event.target.value. Let's do very similar for the name as well. So this is going to change to the name. This will now change to set name, and this will now change to only event.target.value. All right, so now we have the name, we have the email also, and then whenever we click on this add button, we have an on submit handler. So for this on submit handler, what I will do here is this will only become the add and not this dot add. All right, now let's go here, and for this what we need to do here is we have to make use of a add contact handler. So for that what we need to do is let's have a constant, and inside the constant I'm going to have the add contact handler, and this add contact handler will be coming from the use contacts CRUD. All right, we have it, and then what we are going to do here is that I will have the constant here, and this constant will have the add function, which is going to be equals to an arrow function. We will have it as it is, the event.prevent default, and here instead of this dot state, we are simply going to have the name since we are using the use state. So this will become the name, and we are going to have the all the fields are mandatory in case if we are submitting the empty form. All right, and then instead of this dot prop, we are simply going to have the add contact handler. So we are going to have the add contact handler, and right now there is no this dot state. So instead of that, what we are going to pass here is we are going to pass the name and we are going to pass the email. So this is the object we are going to pass, and if we go to the context API, then you will see that in the context API what it is expecting, it's expecting a object, and that object is going to have a name and the email. and this is what we are passing it from here. Once we pass it, what we need to clear the fields. So for that, what I will do here is that I will have the set names. I'm going to make it set names as empty, and for the set email, I'm going to make them as empty. And what we need to do is, as soon as we click on the add button and a contact is added, we want to redirect the page to the contact list where we can see the newly added contact. So this .prop.history.push is not going to work now, and we are making use of the React router DOM version 6. So for that, we have a hook which is called the use navigate. So what we are going to do here is that let's import the use navigate. So I'm going to remove this first, and here I'm going to create a constant first. So I'm going to have a constant, and I'm going to have a navigate, and this navigate will be equals to the use navigate. So I'm going to have the use navigate. All right, I have to import this use navigate hook. So what I will do here is I'm going to go here, import. I will have the use navigate, and this use navigate will be coming from the React router DOM. And now what we will do here is that we have this navigate reference, and we are going to make use of this navigate reference here. All right, so now we have done it, and now if we go and if we test it, then let me refresh it. And as soon as I refresh it, I get an error that the UUID is not defined. So let's fix that. So what I will do here is that if we go to the app.js, and inside the app.js, we have this UUID. So I'm going to cut this UUID from here. All right. And then I'm going to add this UUID in my context CRUD context.js. So here, let's add it. All right, then I will just save it. And now if I refresh it, then we see that we don't have any errors. So now let's go back to our contact list. And here we have all the contacts. And now let's click on the add contact. And here we are going to add the new contact. So let's add a new contact as add new contact. All right, I'm going to select any random email, and then I'm going to click on the add contact. So as soon as I click on the add contact, you will see that a new contact is added. And now we have done the refactoring of the code for the add contact as well. So if I click on the delete, it's working. If I click on the delete, it's working. If we refresh the page, we are able to fetch the list of the contacts. And if we click on the add contact, we are able to add a new contact. So let's add a new contact again, and we can see that we have the new contact. Now the only piece is working is the edit contact and the search functionality. So let's try and work on the edit contact. So if I click on the edit right now, and we see that nothing is happening, we have an error, which is very obvious. So now let's do the edit contact. So I'm going to go to the edit contact, and if I see, then the edit contact is a class component. We have to convert this class component into the function component. So now let's go here, and what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to create a constant here. All right, and we have to make use of an arrow function. So I'm going to remove this, and then this will become an arrow function. Since we have a constructor prop, but we are making use of a function component, we don't want this constructor prop. So what I will do is I'm going to comment this out. And when I comment this out, the first thing we need to do is we need to make use of a use state so that we can have the name and the email. So what I will do here is that I'm going to have a constant, and to the constant, I'm going to have the name. So I will have the new name. So because this is an edit context, so we are going to have a new name and a new email. So I'm going to have a new name, and then I'm going to have the set new name, and then I'm going to have the use state, and I'm going to have the initial empty state. All right, very similarly, we are going to have the constant, and then we are going to have the new email, and then we are going to have the set new email, and for this also we are going to have a use state, and we are going to have the empty state. All right, so now here what we need to observe is that whenever we click on the edit icon, we used to get a state, and that state was the prop.location.state.contact, and from that contact we used to get the ID which we want to edit, plus we have the name and the email which are the existing. So let's go to a contact card. So if I go to the contact card, and inside the contact card, you will see here that we have the link, and then we have a path name, which is the edit, and then we used to pass a state. And this state was the actual contact which we want to edit. But since we are using the React Router DOM version 6, we have to make a bit of change in this link. So what we are going to do here is that we will have the link, the to will be as it is. And then what we need to do here is that I'm going to change this, and I'm going to have the brackets. All right, and then we are going to have the state as well. And for this state also, what I will do here is that I'm going to have the equal, And then we are going to have something like this, and I'm going to remove this. And the two will be the path that we have to route. So our path will be the contacts. So I have misspelled the contacts. And then we are going to have the ID. So let's have the dollar and then whatever the ID we have. And we are already getting the ID. So if we go here, then you will see that we already have the ID, name, and the email from the props.contact. And if we go to the contact list, then you will see that we already have a contact card where we pass the contact object. And this context object is going to have a prop here. And this will become the props.contact. All right, we have the ID. So let's add the ID here. And for the state, what we are going to pass is, for the state, we need to pass the contact object. So this will become the contact. And I just have to add a braces here. All right, so we have added it. Now we can have the to and the state. And now this state can be used in our edit contact. So if we go to the edit contact, then what we need here is that, so to get the location, now we don't have the props.location. So to get the location, we are going to make use of a hook, which is the use location. All right, so now let's go here and I'm going to import a hook, which is the use location. All right, this will be coming from the React Router DOM. And what I'm going to do here is that I'm going to have a constant. I'm going to have the location, which will be equals to the use location. All right, now we have the location and now we can actually get all the data. So I'm going to have the ID, then I'm going to have the name, and I'm going to have the email. And all these three will be coming from the location dot state dot contact, which is the contact object we have. All right, so now we are able to get the ID, name, and email, which is very equivalent to what we have this one. All right, now I will just remove this. We don't want it because we have already created the equivalent code. And what we want is that the initial new name will be the name, existing name, which we want to edit. So I'm going to add it here. All right, for the email, this will become the existing email. So let's add it here. And now we just need to remove the render because it's not anymore a class component. All right, and then what we want is that this dot state, now this will become the new name. So I'm going to have the new name. All right, now this will become the new email. So let me have the new email. We also have to change this one. So this will become set new name, and the new name will be the event dot target dot value. And for this one, this will become the set new email, and this will become the event dot target dot value. All right, so we have made the necessary changes and now we have an update button. So whenever we click on the update button, we make use of a this dot update. So I'm going to remove this. All right, and this will be the update handler. So let's go here and let's update this function. So what I will do is I'm going to have a constant update, which is going to have the event, and then it will have the event dot prevent default. And we also want to prevent the user from submitting the empty fields. So for that, what I will do here is I'm going to change this to new name. So let me have a new name, and this will now change to the new email. So let me have the new email. All right, and this will still be the same. All fields are mandatory, and whenever this condition satisfied, we want to return from this function. All right, but if it doesn't satisfy and now the user have entered the new email and the name, in that case we have to update it. So let's have the update contact handler. Since let's go to the contacts, and this update contact handler will be coming from the context API. So if we go to the context API and if we see, then we haven't exposed the function yet. So let's go and let's export it. But right now we see that we don't have any function related to the update contact. So it will be in our app.js. So if I go to the app.js and inside the app.js, I have this. So I'm going to cut this. All right, I will save it and then I will go to my context API, and here I have retrieve, add, and here there will be an update contact. So I'm going to add here and then I will just label it as an update contact. So I will change this to update. And then if we see here, then what we are going to have is we are going to take a contact object will be the new name and the new email. Then we are going to make an API call to update the record for the particular ID. All right, and then we are going to receive a response, and then we are going to have the response.data, and we are going to take the ID. And what we need to do is we need to update the particular record. So for that, what we will do is I'm going to remove this. No, we don't want this. And here you will set the new contact. So you're going to have the contacts object, then you're going to take the individual contact, and then you will update that particular individual contact with which the ID is matching. So whenever the ID is matching, you want to add the response.data to it. And if it doesn't matches, then you want to keep the contact as it is. So this is the same code. We are not making any changes here because the logic is still working fine. Now let's go to the edit contact, and inside the edit contact, let's import that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have the update contact handler, and this will be coming from the use contact CRUD. And now let's go here and let's check we have exported it or not. So I'm going to copy this, and if I see, then we did not expose this, so let's add it here. All right, now we need to do an import. So if I go to the add contact, and I will just do a copy paste. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add it here simply. So let me add it here. All right, so now we have this, and then as soon as we call the update contact handler, we have to empty the fields. So to empty the fields, we can use the same. What we will do is we are going to have the set new name, and this will become the empty string. And similarly, we are going to have the set new email. So for that also we are going to do the same. All right, and as soon as a contact is updated, we want to redirect it to the contact list where we can see the updated contact list. So for that we have to make use of a navigate. So let's have a navigate, and now we need to import the navigate. So what we are going to do here is I'm going to have a constant, I'm going to have a navigate, and this navigate will be equals to the use navigate. All right, so it's auto imported, and now we can use it. And my name will be the new name, and my email will be the new email. So let me have the new email. All right, I will save it, and now let's give a try. So I have already added this, and now I'm going to click on the update, and you will see that as soon as I update it, I'm not able to see the new updated list here. So if I refresh my page, then we see that we are not able to edit it. So let's give a try again. So I'm going to click here, I'm going to change this to 123, and I'm going to click on the update, and I see that the update is not happening. So we have a problem here. So what we are going to do here is that if we go here back, and if I go to the context CRUD, then we see that the update happens based on the ID. And since in the contact object, I guess we missed the passing of the ID. So if we go back here, then we see that we don't pass the ID. So let's add the ID as well. All right, we already have this ID here, so we can pass it easily. All right, and now let's give a try. So if I go back here, and if I click on the edit, let's change this to mark updated. All right, and I will also change this to mark. So let me add the mark, and let's click on the update. And now you will see that as soon as I click on it, the update is also working. Now we see that all the features, all the CRUD operation, the read, which is if I click on the refresh, then it's going to read all the contacts. Then we are going to have the delete. So if I click on the delete icon, it's getting deleted. Now if I click on the add, and I'm going to add the page new here, and I'm going to have the page new at the rate gmail.com. And if I click on the add, then we see that the add is also working. And the last one, which is the edit. So if I click on the edit, then I'm going to have the new year 2022. And if I click on the update, then it's also working. So the current operations are now working with the help of the context API. And now the only thing we need to do is the search functionality. So now let's work on this search functionality. So I'm going to go back here, and in the app.js, we see that we have a search. So right now I'm going to remove everything from the app.js, which I don't want, so that we can do some cleanup. So I'm going to remove this. We don't want this use effect. Then I'm also going to remove this because we don't want the contacts. We're going to remove the local storage as well. And then what we need is we are going to take this search handler and put it this search handler in the context API. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to cut this, and then we are going to put this in our context API. So let's go back here, and I'm going to have it here. And now on this search functionality, what we have to do here is that first we are going to have a search term, which will be very similar. Then we are going to set this search term as a set search term. So for that, we need to create a variable. So then let's create a variable first. So what I will do here is that I'm going to have here a constant. Then in this constant, I'm going to have the search term. All right, and then I'm going to have the set search term. All right, and this will be equals to the use state, and initially we need to keep it as empty. So if we go to our app.js, then we have a very similar. So we are going to remove this, and we are going to take this as well. So I'm going to cut it from here, and I'm going to put it in my context API. All right, and now what we need to do is we need to expose this search term and the search results. So I'm going to export them. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to expose them from here, search handler, search results. So I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to add the search results, and let's also do the search handler. So I'm going to remove this and I'm going to have the here, and then I'm going to also expose the search handler. All right, so now we have the search term, search results, and not what we need to do is now let's go to our so I'm going to close all this which I don't want. I'll save this and let's go to the contact list, and inside the contact list if you see, then we are going to have the search UI. So this is where the search UI is. So what we are going to do here is that, so first we need to add the search term. So let's copy and add the search term. So I will go here and I'm going to copy the search term. So let's add the search term. All right. And then we will also need the search results. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to copy the search results. So let's add the search results as well. And in the last, what we need is we need the search handler. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to add the search handler. So now we have all the three. And the next thing what we need to do is that I'm not going to use the use ref. So let's remove the use ref. So I'm going to remove it from here. And what I will do here is that if we go, then I'm also going to remove this. All right. And the value will be the search term. So let me copy this, the search term, and then I'm going to add the search term here. And on change, what I will do here is that I'm going to remove this. And instead of this, what I will have, I'm going to have an arrow function, and I'm going to have the on user search. And when I have the on user search, I'm going to pass the event. All right. And now I'm going to copy this and let's have this. I'm going to change this. Here I'm going to have the event. And then what I will have is I'm going to remove this. And instead of this, I will have the search handler. So we already have the search handler, and I'm going to pass the event dot target dot value. All right. So when I pass the event dot target dot value, what actually happens is it will first go to the context API, and here we are going to have the search handler, and we are going to have the search term here, and then we are going to set the search term. And then what we do here is that if the search term is not equals to empty, that means a user is typing something, in that case we just do a filter on all the contacts, and based on the filter we just do the object dot values, we join them using the lowercase, and then we include whatever is available in the search term. So whatever we have typed, if that is available or that is included in this contact object, then we are going to filter that object. And once we filter it, that means we are now having a new refined or a filtered result. Then we set the search result as the filtered result. But if the search term is equal to empty, then our filtered result will be the actual context object. And now what we need to do here is that if we go to our contact list, then we here only have the contacts. But what we need to do is we need to make a condition here. So what I will do here is, so I'm going to have a condition here. So what I will do, I'm going to have a search term, and if the search term length, so let's calculate the length, is less than 1, then in that case what I want is I need to have my contacts object. But if it's not, then I need to have my search results. So what I will do is I'm going to have the search results. All right. And then I need to do a map on that. So based on the condition, whether it's a contacts or whether it's a searched filtered result, then I will do the search on that. All right. And this is very similar. It was already there in our code, but it was written in a different way. And now let's give a try on the search. So I'm going to search for Bharti, and I see that I see a Bharti. If I search for the Nikesh, I see Nikesh. If I search for new, then we see that we have the new in all these 4 contacts. So that means the search functionality is also working. And if we go to the JSON server, and if I click on this contacts, then we see that these are the contacts which are currently present in our JSON server. So that's all I have in this video. I mean, we did a very beautiful code refactoring which was existing in our project, and we did a couple of changes, like we migrated from React Router DOM version 5 to version 6. Then we also converted some class component to a function component, and along with that we added a context API because we were doing a lot of prop drilling in our previous code, which was for very beginner friendly. But this is something a kind of an advanced type. We introduced the context API, and we use the context API throughout our components in a very beautiful way. So that's all I have in this video. I hope you like the video. A thumbs up is appreciated. You can also connect with me via Facebook or Instagram. You can follow me on Twitter for latest updates. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe the channel and press the bell icon so that you don't miss the videos like this one. I've also added this code in a new branch. So if you want to see, then we can go to the browser, and if we go to the repository, then in the repository, if you click on this, then you have a code refactor. And this code refactor branch actually contains all the refactored code which we just saw in this tutorial. So that's all. You can download the code and you can play around it. Thank you. Thanks for watching.